The unseen shield. 7 proofs of divine protection. She has been moving through silent wars nobody witnesses, forcing back tears that flow from pain nobody comprehends, and enduring trials she never requested to bear. Friends have stepped away, necessary support structures have crumbled, and the sheer weight pressing down on her spirit seems to intensify with every rotation of the clock. Yet the one critical truth she remains unaware of is this: a higher power, heaven itself, has been standing steadfastly at her back the entire time. It has been actively moving unseen obstacles, functioning as an invisible shield, and engaging in battles on her behalf in ways her human sight simply cannot yet perceive. In the journey of every woman who is purposefully chosen, there arrives a moment when her world settles into a painful, echoing stillness. It's the period when the very people she once trusted implicitly vanish like smoke, when the pillars of support she relied upon suddenly give way beneath her, and when the crushing load she must carry becomes so overwhelming that it truly threatens to extinguish the very life force within her lungs. She surveys the horizon, searching for a friendly face, and finds none. Nevertheless, she miraculously manages to take another step forward. She somehow continues to breathe, and against all odds, she finds the willpower to rise again. This resilience emerges even when the core of her soul feels utterly depleted and tremulous, and that mysterious, inexplicable surge of inner strength, that power which materializes precisely as she is about to shatter, is definitively not a matter of pure coincidence. It is not the result of mere good fortune. It is certainly not a simple, momentary burst of personal willpower. What you are witnessing is the divine Creator himself seamlessly stepping into the most hidden and vulnerable corners of her life, actively protecting her in methods she has not yet learned to identify, lifting her up before she has a chance to fall, and encircling her with a spiritual armor that no human eye possesses the ability to see. The insights you are about to encounter transcend the realm of mere typical information. They represent a true revelation. Today, you are going to unveil the 7 undeniable proofs that demonstrate how God actively safeguards a chosen woman, particularly during those times when she feels utterly and completely alone, with only Him to rely upon. As we proceed through each sign, a potent realization will dawn upon you. Every tear shed, every painful separation endured, and every jarring, abrupt shift you experienced in your life was not a sign of cosmic abandonment. It was, in fact, an act of precise, deliberate divine intervention, meticulously shaping your ultimate path. It is absolutely vital that you remain engaged until the very end, because the 7th sign holds a core truth so profound, so completely unassailable, that once it fully resonates with you, you will permanently banish any doubt regarding the palpable, continuous presence of God in every aspect of your life. But before we dive deep into this journey, if this very message is already causing an undeniable stirring deep within your spirit, please take a moment right now to affirm this truth by giving this video a much needed like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and make sure to comment with the number 99 below. The reason we use 99 is that it symbolizes that pivotal moment when the shepherd leaves the 99 secure sheep to intentionally pursue the single one who has wandered off and now feels utterly isolated and alone. And today, I want you to know that singular, chosen one is unequivocally you. Let's begin. Sign 1. She endures and ultimately survives devastating attacks that should have logically broken her completely. There are specific, dark periods within a chosen woman's journey when life unleashes an impact designed with a force that should have irrevocably shattered her entire being. These are not merely unpleasant emotional disturbances, but deliberately orchestrated situations intended to absolutely crush her spirit, systematically dismantle her deepest confidence, and utterly silence the sacred purpose she carries. Despite these overwhelming forces, every single time the external world fully expected her to crumble into dust, she consistently found a way to stand back up, unbroken. This wasn't because she felt ready to do so, nor was it because she possessed some inherent, superior physical strength, but because a much greater, unseen power decisively refused to permit her collapse. What the vast majority fail to grasp is that the sheer survival of a chosen woman in these circumstances is not a logical outcome. It is beyond reasonable human explanation. It is, by all earthly measures, an impossibility. She endured countless nights where she cried silently, genuinely believing deep down that she would never see the light of morning, only for the sun to faithfully rise again. There were numerous days when the external pressure compressed her life with the relentless, suffocating force of a Category 5 hurricane determined to drown her completely. But in a way she could never fully explain, the storm inexplicably subsided just before she did. These recurring events are not simply random coincidences. They are not fortunate, lucky escapes. They represent the clear, unmistakable fingerprints of the divine. These moments are concrete proof of an invisible, powerful hand gently, yet firmly, catching her right at the precipice of her fall. The intense, emotional, and spiritual attacks that have utterly destroyed others only serve to sharpen her character. The very same devastating circumstances that have crushed the spirits of other people only serve to awaken something primal and ancient deep within her being, a fierce, divine resilience that was carefully planted by God Himself. Darkness continuously attempts to whisper the lie that she is utterly alone. Yet, every time that darkness creeps in closer, something powerful always manages to violently push it back. She may not visually observe this force, but she feels its undeniable effect. That sudden, inexplicable jolt of strength that appears from an unknown source, that soft yet firm whisper telling her, not yet. This unexplainable umbrella of protection completely surrounds her, even as every other form of human support vanishes without a trace. Her survival in these scenarios is not merely about enduring pain. It is a clear revelation. It is God declaring, "I will not permit this world to permanently break what I have personally chosen and anointed." And here lies the most compelling twist that continuously propels her story forward. The fierce attacks that were explicitly designed to permanently finish her did not just fail, they inadvertently exposed a profound, inherent power that the enemy greatly fears. They successfully revealed a spiritual strength within her that she has not even begun to learn how to fully harness and utilize yet. And that transformative truth, my friend, is only now starting to fully surface. Sign 2. God abruptly removes people from her life without offering any immediate explanation. One of the most disorienting and painful experiences a chosen woman must navigate is the unsettling sight of people fading completely from her life without warning or logical closure. Someone she had placed deep trust in overnight becomes a vague memory. A person she passionately loved grows mysteriously distant for no discernible reason. A figure she genuinely believed was a permanent fixture suddenly transforms into an instant stranger. And because she is a person who feels emotions deeply and loves with unwavering boldness, these sudden, unexplained endings feel as sharp and cutting as a hidden blade. She inevitably begins to question what actions she took wrong, why she felt she wasn't good enough, or why everything dissolved so rapidly. But here is the profound truth she often fails to grasp in the overwhelming heat of the moment. What she desperately interprets as cruel abandonment is, in a larger divine context, often a strategic, necessary evacuation. God is absolutely not administering some form of punishment. He is actively and lovingly protecting her. When a person is removed from her sphere abruptly, it is because there were hidden, dangerous conversations she was never meant to overhear. There were destructive intentions she was never meant to fully discover. There were deep, calculated betrayals she was never meant to be fundamentally harmed by. Heaven itself observed a clear and present danger silently forming in the shadows. A sinister motive concealed behind an act of superficial kindness. A destructive plan wrapped tightly in a cloak of charm. and God decisively intervened before the full impact could ever truly reach her. These sudden, jarring exits should never be viewed as profound personal losses. They are, in reality, crucial rescue missions. She may not possess the ability to see the lurking trap, but God certainly does, and He adamantly refuses to allow His chosen one to walk directly into it. Sometimes, the divine removal of a person occurs because their draining, negative energy is actively hijacking her destiny. Sometimes, God violently slams a door shut because their pervasive influence is subtly poisoning the purity of her sacred purpose. There are also instances when He lovingly disconnects her from individuals she deeply cares for because their continued presence would fundamentally delay the necessary new chapter she was specifically designed to step into. And while the act of separation brings undeniable pain, there will always be a moment, sometimes only a few months later, sometimes many years down the road, when she looks back at the situation and quietly whispers, "Thank you, God. I genuinely didn't understand it then, but you certainly did." That powerful realization truly becomes the defining turning point of her life. She immediately begins to recognize the repeating pattern. The faster and more unexplained someone's disappearance is, the more profound the danger they pose to her forthcoming future. But here is where the deeper mystery of this protection unfolds. God does not simply remove people just to protect her from harm. He removes them primarily to create necessary space for divine alignment, space for spiritual elevation, space for a deeply fulfilling connection she can completely trust. Something, or perhaps someone entirely new, is currently being prepared, and this seemingly isolated silence is absolutely not a dead end. It is the divine clearing of a sacred pathway. The urgent question now is, from whom specifically was God meticulously protecting her? And what profound new blessing is He currently positioning right next to her? The answer, I assure you, is already rapidly moving in her direction. Sign 3. Her discernment becomes painfully and uncomfortably sharp. There comes a definitive point in the life of a chosen woman when her once gentle intuition ceases to be a subtle nudge and transforms into a piercing, unmistakable warning siren. It begins so subtly you might miss it, a strange, unwarranted heaviness suddenly settling around specific individuals. A quiet, inexplicable discomfort in locations that once felt intimately familiar. An abrupt, unsettling shift in her own body when someone smiles while simultaneously telling a calculated lie. She lacks the logical means to explain this feeling, and she rarely possesses the concrete evidence needed to justify it. Yet something deep within her soul begins to ring relentlessly like a spiritual alarm bell. This is not the result of simple paranoia. This is not the mental fatigue of overthinking every detail. This is pure, refined discernment, a gift sharpened through periods of necessary isolation, immensely intensified by fervent prayer, and actively engaged by continuous divine protection. When she reaches the point where she genuinely has no one to turn to but God alone, He begins to communicate with her in powerful ways she had never previously noticed. Not through loud, booming thunder, but through a persistent sense of deep uneasiness. Not through grand, cosmic visions, but through sudden, undeniable clarity. Not through detailed, logical explanations, but through profound feelings that resolutely refuse to be dismissed or ignored. She quickly begins to sense the absolute truth that lies concealed beneath people's smooth words. She can instantly detect hidden jealousy, expertly disguised as genuine support. She accurately feels the deep underlying energy of someone's true intentions long before their tangible actions ever manage to reveal them. Environments that once provided a feeling of safety now feel spiritually toxic and corrupted. Conversations that used to sound harmless now register as intensely draining and oppressively heavy. Faces that once provided a sense of comfort now cause her innermost spirit to inexplicably recoil. This heightened sensitivity is certainly not comfortable. It is often intrusive, intensely draining, and at times it can feel utterly overwhelming. But that, my friend, is the entire point of this gift. Discernment is not intentionally designed to soothe her frazzled nerves. It is meticulously designed to provide an impenetrable shield. God actively sharpens this ability to effectively warn her before any damage can occur, to instantly alert her before manipulation even begins to take hold, and to guide her deliberately away from places where her sacred purpose would ultimately suffocate and die. The more deeply connected she becomes with God, the quicker and more accurately she detects deception. The more isolated she becomes from the noise of the world, the more powerful her spiritual radar becomes. The more she consciously relies on Him alone, the more clearly she hears that quiet, constant whisper saying, "Pay very close attention. Something here is fundamentally wrong." This is the central reason why external people often remark that she has drastically changed, or that she seems far too distant, or that she is clearly overreacting to minor issues. They completely fail to understand that her spirit is simply responding to vital information that their own physical eyes are completely unable to perceive. She no longer makes decisions based purely on human logic. She moves now based on clear divine revelation, and very soon this newly sharpened discernment is going to expose a truth she truly never expected. A hidden reality waiting patiently in plain sight for the precise, correct moment to be fully revealed. Sign 4. Unexpected, profound peace envelops her in the very middle of total chaos. There is a precise, powerful moment in every chosen woman's journey when the entire world is holding its breath, expecting her to finally collapse. But instead of breaking, something truly strange and miraculous occurs. Even as the external pressure relentlessly mounts, even as responsibilities threaten to suffocate her, even as fierce, blinding storms rage around her with absolutely no sign of abating, she is suddenly overtaken by a deep, unwavering calm that defies all logical explanation. Her panicked heart instantly stops racing. Her spiraling mind ceases its frantic activity. Her trembling spirit becomes suddenly still. It is precisely as if a vast, invisible blank. It has been gently draped over her entire soul, effectively softening the harsh noise, completely quieting the mounting fear, and firmly steadying her ragged breath. This specific form of peace is not a natural occurrence. It is not a mere emotional state. It is certainly not a simple psychological trick. It is fundamentally supernatural. The people observing her from the outside might mistakenly assume she is emotionally numb or perhaps totally disconnected from reality. But she intrinsically knows this feeling is profoundly different. It is absolutely not the complete absence of pain and struggle. It is the undeniable presence of God Himself. It is not that the external chaos has magically disappeared. It is that God has decisively stepped directly into the churning center of it and taken full, sovereign control. This kind of spiritual peace does not engage in arguments with the harsh realities of life, and it certainly doesn't pretend that everything is perfectly fine. Instead, it whispers a single, eternal assurance. Even right here, in this turmoil, you are completely held and secure. What makes this particular peace so incredibly potent is that it arrives at the absolute precise moment she feels she has utterly exhausted her last reserve of inner strength. When she is just one desperate step away from complete collapse, that quiet stillness descends like a firm, steadying hand placed upon her shoulder, grounding her just before she gives way. It is not an emotional state she attempts to create. It is a divine gift she humbly receives, and the timing of its arrival is always divinely orchestrated. She begins to clearly notice this repeating pattern. Every single time a situation logically should have overwhelmed and broken her, something deep within her being immediately became unshakable and immovable. This remarkable inner calm utterly frustrates her visible enemies. completely confuses the people observing her from the outside, and powerfully reinforces her core identity as someone who is continuously protected by a superior force they simply cannot fathom. Because experiencing profound peace while standing in the middle of destructive chaos is not normal. It is direct, irrefutable evidence. Evidence that God is personally carrying the unbearable weight she can no longer hold onto. Evidence that she is completely surrounded, even when she feels utterly alone. Evidence that her precious spirit is fully shielded, even when her external life appears fragile and about to shatter. And yet, there is a dimension more to this. This profound peace is not merely temporary comfort. It is intentional preparation. It is a sure sign that something massive is shifting behind the cosmic scenes, that heaven is precisely positioning her for the next monumental phase of her life's journey. Something immense is truly about to move. And this highly unusual calm is the very first subtle sign that the spiritual battlefield surrounding her is currently being systematically rearranged. The urgent question that remains is, what incredible thing is God meticulously preparing her for right now? The very next sign will unequivocally reveal the answer. Sign 5. Her enemies mysteriously fail without her ever needing to lift a finger to fight them. There comes a jaw-dropping moment in the continuing story of a chosen woman when she grasps an astonishing, empowering reality. The very spiritual battles she feared and agonized over the most somehow never actually managed to reach her. Calculated attacks that were viciously whispered behind her back suddenly lose all their power and collapse. Malicious plots carefully formed in secret disintegrate before they even have a chance to be fully executed. People who deliberately sought to sabotage her future end up, inexplicably, tripping directly over the very traps they painstakingly laid. And here is the miraculous part. She never engaged in an argument. She never felt the need to publicly defend her name. She never exposed anyone's true intentions. She didn't even have to lift a single finger in retaliation. Because when God makes the sovereign choice to personally protect a woman, He completely removes the fundamental necessity for her to fight exhausting battles that were never hers to engage in the first place. Her enemies fully expected her to descend into panic. They anticipated her emotional retaliation. They waited for her to spiral completely out of emotional control. But instead, she remained remarkably calm and centered. And that unwavering calmness is what truly instills fear in them. Not because she is passively ignoring the dangerous situation, but because something deep inside her spirit already possesses the absolute knowledge of the ultimate outcome. She feels a strange, unshakable confidence powerfully rising within her. Even when external circumstances appear incredibly threatening, that profound confidence is a direct, urgent message transmitted straight from heaven. Stand still. This specific battle is entirely mine to fight. While her enemies are frantically focused on strategizing their next move, God is actively dismantling their entire framework. While they attempt to gather damning information against her, God is systematically scattering their carefully laid plans. While they relentlessly speak words of condemnation against her, God is unilaterally reversing the harmful effects of their words. There is an almost poetic symmetry in how these things unfold. The intended harm they meticulously planned inevitably circles back and lands squarely on them. The calculated lies they enthusiastically spread end up exposing their own inherent flaws. The bitter jealousy they desperately concealed begins to rot and destroy everything they attempt to touch. She rarely witnesses the entire complex process, but she certainly sees the tangible, undeniable results. Suddenly, a person who once openly boasted about her failure abruptly loses access, loses influence, or completely loses interest in her altogether. Suddenly, a massive conflict that should have drastically escalated ends inexplicably in profound silence. Suddenly, a malicious individual who tried to permanently damage her reputation ends up inadvertently revealing their own glaring flaws. And she starts to notice a powerful, recurring pattern. Every single time she consciously chooses to remain quiet, God moves with greater, louder power. Every time she intentionally walks away from a confrontation, God immediately walks in to defend her. Every single time someone attempts to dim the light of her purpose, God instantly strengthens that light until it shines brightly through every futile attempt to cover it. Some in the world might label this force as karma. Others might dismiss it as a mere coincidence. But a chosen woman knows, with spiritual certainty, exactly what it is. It is divine justice, diligently operating without requiring any involvement from her whatsoever. And here is the powerful twist that pulls her deeper and deeper into the center of her destiny. These failed external attacks are, in reality, only the superficial surface. Behind every single one of them lies something immeasurably greater, a fundamental, strategic shift that God is orchestrating, which will finally reveal exactly why so many crucial battles were expertly handled on her behalf. The very next sign is about to fully uncover that profound revelation. Sign 6. Closed doors are revealed to be life, saving shields in disguise. There are few pains in life that cut more deeply than the sharp sting of profound rejection. And for a woman who has been chosen for a high purpose, that specific sting is often unforgettable. When a necessary door is violently slammed shut, a promising job, a lifelong friendship, a significant relationship, or a crucial opportunity she prayed fervently for, it absolutely shakes the foundation of her spirit. She replays every single detail in her mind, anxiously wondering if she somehow misread the divine timing, if she wasn't inherently good enough, or if she somehow personally caused the catastrophic collapse. But what she fundamentally fails to see in that moment of acute pain is the invisible, immediate danger that lurked menacingly behind that firmly closed door. She doesn't see the total chaos that God mercifully blocked. She doesn't see the spiritual contamination and darkness He shielded her precious soul from. She doesn't see the hidden, malicious intentions, the quiet, secret betrayals, or the silent, crippling traps that were patiently waiting on the other side of that threshold. What she desperately interprets as a significant setback is, in fact, often a profound rescue. What she labels with intense disappointment, heaven refers to as a critical intervention. God simply does not close crucial doors as a form of arbitrary punishment for His chosen daughter. He closes them decisively because He possesses the precise, future knowledge of exactly what catastrophic consequences would have unfolded if they had remained open to her. Perhaps the appealing opportunity was dangerously wrapped in a hidden temptation. Perhaps the relationship she craved was fundamentally rooted in manipulation and deceit. Perhaps the seemingly promising environment carried deep spiritual rot and toxicity beneath its shiny, polished surface. And because she possesses an inherently soft heart, an unwaveringly loyal spirit, and a consistent tendency to give far too much of herself, God steps in to protect her from the insidious things she doesn't yet realize would have emotionally drained her, spiritually broken her, or severely delayed the trajectory of her divine purpose. What makes this particular sign so incredibly powerful and simultaneously so intensely frustrating is that God often provides absolutely no immediate explanation for the closure. The door simply slams shut, sometimes violently and unexpectedly, sometimes overnight, sometimes in a way that leaves her absolutely breathless and profoundly confused. And she remains standing there, staring blankly at the firmly closed entrance, completely unaware that she has just successfully avoided a major spiritual ambush. However, with the slow, steady passage of time, she begins to clearly notice the undeniable pattern. Every single rejection she experienced consistently led her somewhere inherently safer. Every painful ending forcefully put her back on the correct path. Every seemingly cruel no created the necessary, sacred space for a resounding yes. That fully aligned with her ultimate destiny instead of relentlessly destroying it. And this is the profound moment the revelation finally hits her. She was absolutely not being excluded or intentionally blocked. She was constantly and strategically being protected. She was not being pushed cruelly out of the way. She was being powerfully pulled forward into her future. Every single thing that ultimately didn't work out was never meant to be the vehicle to carry her into the next magnificent chapter God meticulously designed for her life. But here is where the story pivots dramatically, because when God closes a critical door to shield a chosen woman, He is not just protecting her from something harmful. He is primarily and actively preparing her for something truly spectacular, and that intense preparation is about to reveal an astonishing, undeniable strength she truly never realized she possessed. Sign 7. Her inner strength evolves in ways that would be absolutely impossible without God's direct intervention. There is a profound, life-altering transformation that can only ever take place within the crucible of deep isolation. A unique kind of inner spiritual rebuilding that simply cannot occur when a chosen woman is constantly surrounded, incessantly supported, or comfortably consoled by external people. When she reaches the point where she sincerely has no one to rely upon but God, something purely supernatural awakens deep within her core. Something that doesn't resemble ordinary human courage or typical self-confidence, but a deep, seated strength that has been forged intensely in silence under immense pressure and within the continuous presence of the divine. It begins subtly, almost unnoticed. She starts to observe that she no longer reacts to external events in the same frantic, emotional way she used to. The same old wounds that once left her completely shattered now only cause a fleeting sting. The overwhelming chaos that once paralyzed her now feels strangely manageable. The intimidating, critical voices that once silenced her now sound small and insignificant. She begins to rise with a different kind of purpose. She starts to think with a new level of clarity. She begins to walk like someone who possesses an intrinsic, deep-seated knowledge that she is constantly carried and sustained by a force infinitely greater than herself. This forged strength is not loud or boastful. It is not performative for the benefit of others. It grows quietly, deep within the hidden, vulnerable places where only God has direct, full access. It is the specific kind of strength that teaches her how to genuinely let go without debilitating fear, how to patiently wait without descending into panic, and how to ultimately trust completely without requiring tangible proof. It sharply focuses her inherent purpose. It firmly steadies her often volatile emotions. It makes her feel profoundly grounded and centered in a way she didn't even realize was humanly possible before. She instantaneously becomes wiser, not from the consumption of self-help books, and not from the unsolicited advice of others, but from direct internal revelation. She sees right through the true motives of people much faster. She recognizes negative, destructive cycles much sooner. She identifies soul-draining distractions instantly. And then something even more extraordinary begins to happen. Her light, her spiritual glow, makes a powerful return. Not the light she possessed before life broke her down, a brand new one. A profound glow born directly from a miraculous healing she never anticipated. A resilient spirit she never asked for. And astonishing victories she never had to physically fight for herself. This powerful new glow absolutely unsettles those who confidently assumed she would remain permanently broken, completely confuses those who grossly underestimated her resilience, and deeply inspires those who had long given up on their own lives. God's continuous protection doesn't merely shield her from imminent harm. It actively and purposefully forges her into a superior version of herself that only intense divine pressure is capable of creating. She doesn't rise from the ashes as the woman she once was. She rises triumphantly as the majestic woman she was always divinely meant to become, a woman whose deep resilience is utterly unshakable, a woman whose determined spirit is completely unmovable, a woman whose destiny is now entirely undeniable. But what makes this concluding sign so powerfully significant is the next stage. Because once this supernatural, God-given strength fully emerges, God doesn't merely protect her, He strategically positions her. And the critical moment of that divine positioning is now much closer than she can possibly imagine. My chosen woman, take a brief moment now and genuinely feel the immense shift that is currently taking place deep inside of you. That profound stirring in your chest, that sudden warmth powerfully rising in your spirit, that unexpected immediate clarity. That is the unmistakable sound of chains breaking, oppressive weights lifting, and eternal truth finally seizing its rightful, sacred place within your soul. Everything you have experienced up to this specific moment was not random chance. It was never a form of punishment, and it was certainly not abandonment. It was a crucial part of your preparation. It was heaven diligently rewriting your life story behind the scenes, intensely strengthening you in spiritual secret so that you could rise publicly and powerfully. Listen closely. Every single tear you cried was meticulously collected. Every single injustice you had to endure was fully witnessed. Every fierce attack that tried to take you out was intercepted by divine force. God did not simply watch you walk alone through the raging fire. He deliberately stepped directly into the flames with you, actively shielding you from the devastating heat that absolutely should have burned you alive. You did not survive this solely because you were inherently tough or strong. You survived because you were eternally protected, constantly carried and vigilantly guarded by an immeasurable strength, propelled by an unquestionable wisdom, and elevated by a love that absolutely cannot be stopped. And right now, in this very moment, the incredible shift begins. A profound shift where the painful wounds that once severely weakened you now instantly transform into the powerful wisdom that will unerringly guide your path. A fundamental shift where the terrifying silence you once deeply feared becomes the sacred space where God speaks to you with the loudest, clearest voice. A final shift where everything that was unjustly taken from you becomes the precise fuel for the astonishing new blessings God is about to generously release directly into your ready hands. The spiritual season you are powerfully stepping into now is not just ordinary. It is prophetic. It is deeply purposeful. This is the definitive new chapter where God's constant, vigilant protection becomes so visibly obvious that even you will stand in absolute awe of how incredibly far you have finally come. You are now stepping onto a sacred territory where all external attacks lose their destructive power, where paralyzing fear loses its relentless grip, and where discouraging voices lose their insidious influence. The powerful woman you are purposefully becoming is a direct, formidable threat to everything that once tried to permanently threaten you. Your spirit is infinitely stronger, your inner discernment is razor sharp, your ultimate purpose is crystal clear, and heaven is meticulously aligning every single detail of your life's path with divine precision. This is your long-awaited rising, your sacred unveiling, your precise divine appointment with the magnificent version of yourself God always knew you would ultimately become. And hear this final truth, backed by the full, infinite weight of heaven itself. Absolutely nothing that was ever meant to break you will have the capacity to follow you into this phenomenal next season of your life. The crucial doors that firmly closed behind you were completely necessary for your survival. The painful betrayals that forcefully removed certain people were strategically orchestrated for your future. The devastating battles you never even had to physically fight were definitively won for you long before you were even aware they existed. So, if this message has powerfully awakened something deep and undeniable inside your soul, if it genuinely felt like God was speaking directly to the vulnerable parts of you that no one else ever truly sees, then seal this powerful moment with your voice. Declare in the comments section below, with profound boldness and complete certainty, the truth that resonates loudest within you. God has been protecting me all along. Say it not just as a comment, but as a powerful, future-shaping proclamation. Say it as a constant, necessary reminder to your soul. Say it as a final, spiritual mark on your unfolding destiny. Because from this very moment forward, you are walking with a brand new identity. You are covered, you are chosen, and you are absolutely unstoppable. Your story is shifting profoundly. Your spiritual atmosphere is changing rapidly, and your powerful destiny is unfolding right before your very eyes. And may you leave this video carrying this singular, unshakable truth: you were never, ever alone in the struggle. You were simply being perfectly prepared for undeniable greatness.